I am attorney Marie-Chris Bathan-Lasco. This is my virtual classroom. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this channel, I shall aim to simplify the law. I shall discuss concepts and principles of law in under 10 minutes. Hi everyone. For this video, I will talk about corporations. And for this particular video, let us zoom in and focus on the corporation code, more specifically, your section 1 and 2 of your corporation code. Your section 1 is just basically telling you the title of the law governing corporations. And it says that the title of the code is the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines. Now, why revised? Because clearly the old corporation code had several amendments, and it actually introduced several amendments and deleted also some provisions. This revised corporation code became effective February 23, 2019. This is a very welcome development because your new corporation code, the revised corporation code, has now adapted to the times, as you will later on learn once you go over the revised corporation code. Your revised corporation code came into being so that there is the introduction of new business vehicles. There is always the observance of the ease of doing business because of the complaints before that it was very difficult for persons to create a business organization. And so the revised corporation code was made, or rather the old corporation code was amended to answer these complaints that there was no ease in doing business. And so we have this now, where there are certain provisions that answer to the deficiencies perhaps of the old corporation code. So that's just basically your section 1. What is section 2? Section 2 merely defines what a corporation is. So let's read section 2. It says, a corporation is an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidental to its existence. In section 2, you already know that a corporation is an artificial being. It is merely a creation of law. As opposed to a natural being like us, we are natural beings, you have your corporation that is an artificial being, the same as that of a partnership, which is also an artificial being. It is one that is created by law. It is not really a person, but by operation of law, it is treated as such, as if it is a person. And that's why we call them, your partnership and your corporation, we call them juridical persons. From the definition given by your revised corporation code of what a corporation is, you can actually already tell what are the attributes of a corporation. So, what are the attributes? First, it is an artificial being. Second, it is created by operation of law. Third, it has the right of succession. Fourth, it has the powers, attributes, and properties that are expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. As I've mentioned, it is an artificial being. And what happens if it is an artificial being? What is the consequence? The consequence is that it is treated by law as a separate person. A separate person that is distinct from the investors or the incorporators that are making up the corporation. And this is what we call the doctrine of corporate entity. Because of such doctrine, the corporation then can be liable for acts or contracts that are entered into in the name of the corporation. Because again, it is considered as a separate juridical person. It is separate and distinct from the stockholders composing it. This means then that if a stockholder has a debt with, let's say, Mr. A, Mr. A cannot sue the corporation for the debt of a stockholder, even if that stockholder be a director of the corporation or be the president of a corporation. Because again, as I've mentioned, the corporation is separate and distinct from the members or from the stockholders composing it. It can therefore enter into contracts in its own name. It can sue and it can also be sued. Again, separately and distinctly from the stockholders or the members composing the corporation. In the same manner that when a president enters into a contract in behalf of the corporation as authorized by the governing body, which is the board of directors, your president cannot also be made personally liable for the contracts that he has entered into with authority in behalf of the corporation, because again, the corporation is considered as a separate juridical person. Again, this is what we call the doctrine of corporate entity. We also mentioned that one of the attributes of a corporation is that it can have powers or properties that are expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence. That being so, your corporation can also own properties, it being considered as a separate juridical personality. So it can buy properties and it can also sell properties. If the property is under the name of the corporation, then it is owned by the corporation. It cannot be considered as owned by the stockholders or the directors. Rather, it is owned by the corporation. While when you become a stockholder, you are a holder of a stock, which I will be discussing in another video in our virtual classroom, you're entitled to a proportionate share in the corporation, but that does not amount to you becoming a co-owner of a specific property under the name of the corporation. So again, your corporation being a separate juridical entity, it can buy properties, it can convey properties. Again, just because you're a stockholder, that does not already make you a co-owner of a specific property in a corporation, or in the property rather of a corporation. Now, let's discuss about another attribute of a corporation, which we also mentioned earlier, and such that it has the right of succession. What does this mean? This means that the corporation can continue to exist even with a change of the membership or even with a change of the composition of the stockholders. Why is it important to mention this? It's important to mention this because a corporation is just one form of business organization. The other two major forms of business organization is we have the sole proprietorship and the partnership. If you have visited some of my videos, you would have already learned that when you talk about partnerships, there is no right of succession in a partnership, such that if there's a change in the membership of the partnership, if one withdraws, if another is admitted, if one dies, then the partnership is dissolved. That means that partnership will cease to exist. This is different when we're talking about a corporation. Again, because even if there is an additional stockholder or additional investors, or if a stockholder sells his shares, the corporation can continue to exist. It is not considered as dissolved. This is just one of the distinctions between a partnership and a corporation. I will put the link below on my video where I discuss the differences, other differences or distinctions between a partnership and a corporation. But going back to such attribute, your corporation, as I've mentioned, will continue to exist even if there is an additional stockholder or stockholders, even if some stockholders will stop becoming such because they sell their shares. They will continue, or rather, the corporation will continue to exist. Now, let's go to the fourth attribute of a corporation that I have mentioned earlier on. And that is that the corporation has powers, attributes, or properties that are expressly authorized by law or incident to its existence, or incidental rather to its existence. Now, what do we mean by this? This means that because a corporation is an artificial entity that is created by operation of law, this means that the corporation should only act in accordance with law. And what law are we talking about? We're talking about the revised corporation code. Is there a need for an express grant as to what powers they may exercise? No, there is no need for an express grant because the revised corporation code already tells you of the general powers of a corporation. Of course, when you go over the revised corporation code, you will, of course, learn as to the limits of these powers, as when they can only engage in business that they have stated in their articles of incorporation, as to what is the purpose rather of their incorporation. So, of course, while we look into the general law, we will also have to look into the articles of incorporation, which I will be discussing in another video, as to it giving the limits of the powers of the corporation. Of course, as would be approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So that is it for this short video where we just focused on the general concept of a corporation, where we talked about what general law governs corporations, what is a corporation, how is it defined, what are the attributes of a corporation, and the concept of the doctrine of corporate entity. Yes, we will learn more about corporations in my other videos, so watch out for them, and let's enjoy learning through this virtual classroom. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you have, please click like, subscribe, and that notification bell so that you will be notified of new video uploads. Thank you for watching. See you next time in MBL Classroom.